Hello, everybody. Oh, wow, we're in different places. Look at that. Welcome to the BROLIGARCHY show with Zainab Day, Pat Cody, and me, Lila Charles Lee.
I'm just saying I'm not a bottom, excuse me. But
oh, wow. We're just going to roll.
I don't care where we're here.
What's that say about me?
Or what does it say about people who are bottoms? Like, let's just be not
No
anti-woke
judgment.
here,
Each
like
their own.
the tech bros. That's the big thing now. Anti-woke. Woke is the problem, didn't you know?
Yeah, I just realized why that intro feels so quick. We don't have a countdown to start it out, so it just goes instantly to our intro.
Yeah,
so I'll add a little ticker.
Very fast. It's very fast. Yeah. Barely had time to pour my first glass of wine, but I am here. We do not have the wheel, but we do have plenty to either drink or smoke or whatever anybody wants to do. We do have some entertainment. So we heard you. We are a democracy here. We heard you loud and clear. We need some levity in between all the death and destruction.
There.
How are you, Zainab?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Well, fine. Although you are in Kentucky, where you were just hit with this crazy tornadoes yesterday.
Yeah, we had. They said it's been one of the most historic tornadoes in modern history. It's so crazy. There's a scar in the Daniel Boone National Forest that you can see from Google satellites.
Wow.
It's so massive. Like, it's crazy. But yeah, I live in London, Kentucky, and it was just hit with a massive tornado. I think around 19 people passed away. It just completely devastated a subdivision a couple miles from where I live on the south side of town. Luckily, I was on the north side of town. My family are all safe, but I do know people that lost their homes and that, their families and lost family members. And one of the saddest things too is there's a whole feed, with a city feed from our local city of lost pets trying to reunite with their families. So I hope all these fur babies are reunited.
Me too.
With their loved ones.
Oh, it's so scary. That's horrible. Yeah, and some of the pictures are just, it's just devastating. It's just terrible.
I can't believe there's some that were houses with a slab foundation that are now just holes in the ground. Not even any debris nearby, just completely swept away. It's unreal. I think they said it was like the force of a factor 5 tornado, but I think that they're calling it a 4 because it has to be like a whole town that's destroyed to be considered a 5. It's kind of weird, the labeling, but it was over 200-mile-per-hour winds.
Jesus,
that's insane. So what kind of warnings did they give you guys? Did you have ample protections and services, at least letting people know?
Thanks to Andy Beshear, our governor, we did. We probably had about an hour and a half warning here. Our sirens were going off in town about an hour and a half before. I got a warning even before that bad weather was coming, and then an hour and a half before, and then during the tornado, it was seek shelter immediately for like 30 minutes when the tornado was still in Somerset.
Right.
So I was gathering up all of our stuff and gathering our pets and everything so we could go down to the basement if we have to. But we do need shelters here in London. We definitely, but it started in Somerset. It hit 2 lights down from where my brother lives. God, and then it came all the way across, which is like 25 to 30 miles, all the way across to London. One tornado traveled that long of a distance. So it went through the woods.
Yeah.
And came and hit London. And we didn't know if it was going to go north or south. So we were watching Ryan, y'all. If you guys have ever heard of that guy.
Yeah.
I love him. He's from southeastern Kentucky too.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's terrifying. And I'm so sad for all the devastation, but obviously grateful that you guys are okay.
The communities come together. They'd already had massive donation centers are filling up. One of the crazy things, though, there were a bunch of TikTokers trying to do devastation porn down here, and they had to send them away because they were getting in the way of
rescue workers or yeah.
And one other thing, Andy Beshear sent a whole bunch of rescue vehicles down and evac vehicles and stuff to our small airport that we have here that kind of services the the widespread kind of Eastern Kentucky area, in the rural areas, because we're right off 75, and it was devastated. So our evac vehicles and everything were destroyed. Dozens of vehicles gone.
Crazy. I mean, that's really, it's just so scary and sad when that happens, because you really are just at the, will of Mother Nature and big oil.
And obviously, all this is going to get progressively worse as the climate, exacerbates all these storms and makes them all more volatile.
Yep.
And these
that brings us
assholes
back to the
start
tech
using
bros.
AI to replace meteorologists and people, and
Yep. And defunding weather services while they are destroying the planet with their data centers. So we're finding new ways to and waging war. Like genocide ruins the planet. That's ruins the ecosystem. So lovely to see that these people who want to create a better world for themselves are making sure they destroy it on their way out to Mars or the sea or whatever the hell. Yeah. So speaking of transitions, last week or 2 weeks ago, there was this group of former Palantir workers who wrote a letter that apparently the data mining AI weapon facility has somehow crossed a line in their minds, and they wanted to warn everybody that it's really dangerous now. But I think most of us who have been paying attention are quite aware of these, tech oligarchs and how they have their fingers in every aspect of all of our lives, and plus are heavily involved in, Israel's genocide and just our military industrial complex and all of that. So we just sort of wanted to start with an overview of Palantir and kind of then just go into the main players and what they are doing, both in our government with our cops and data centers and war. So
how the war machine fuels the policing machine, fuels colonialism, fuels empire, and it's all, the engine of that is mass surveillance, autonomous vehicles.
And these are the people that have the ear of power and government. So any disaster they see as an opportunity to find a contract for their company or expand their reach. So it's just going to amplify and get a lot worse, just like the climate.
Yeah.
No.
All right. So let's start with a quick introduction to Palantir.
After 17 years on the private market, data analytics company Palantir is ready to make its public market debut.
Co-founded by Peter Thiel back in 2003, its mission, providing software that customers use to integrate volumes of data from images to spreadsheets into a central platform where it can then be securely analyzed and interpreted.
News of Palantir's plans to go public, as well as its recent announcement that it will be relocating its headquarters from Palo Alto to Denver, has put the secretive software company in the spotlight. Best known for its work with U.S. government agencies like the CIA, the Department of Defense, and most controversially, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the company was founded following 9/11 with the goal of defending American interests.
The core mission of our company always was to make the West, especially America, the strongest in the world for the sake of global peace.
For the sake of global peace. It is really interesting to me that they started off, so when my older son was first starting to do like college scouting and what was his major, he had no idea. And people kept saying like, well, he's good at math. Like, how about data analysis, data analytics? And you hear that a lot. Like it's either consulting or data analytics. And somehow both of those projects, and he's not doing either of those, but end up in war. Like, they are being used to police people, to surveil people, to do pre-crime analysis, who's most likely to, blow up your American soldier who's invaded a foreign nation like in Iraq and Afghanistan. But it all starts with something that seems so, mundane. Data analysis. What could be wrong with that? Right?
You would think.
Yeah.
You would think, because they sold it to us as, we're going to be able to cure cancer in 5 years.
Yeah.
We're going to be able to, have education at your fingertips. We're going to be able to do all of these things that we haven't seen that. What they've done is they've created death machines, and they've created machines to replace us.
Yeah. So the major founder of Palantir is Peter Thiel, who joined up with Alex Karp. Just to give some background, because all of these people, just the way, Palantir and Doge and SpaceX and Google and Microsoft all end up having their fingers together in the same pie. Thiel and Musk and David Sachs were known as the PayPal mafia. And I think as we bring in the white supremacist, eugenicist part of these people and their I was going to say Nazism, techno-Zionism. Yeah, it's important to know where they got their start. And this is a clip from Democracy Now! Explaining all of their backgrounds, which gives us a lot of insight into the world they want to create.
Who are the PayPal mafia, and how are they linked to apartheid-era South Africa?
Well, they're a group of men who are at the top, the founding of PayPal, all of whom in some way or other grew up in South Africa as children. You've got Musk himself, who was born in South Africa and lived there, went to high school there until he was 18. Musk's grandfather, Canadian grandfather, had been the head of the Canadian branch of a political movement in the 1930s called Technocracy Incorporated, which in essence wanted to scrap democracy in the United States and Canada and have technocrats rule the country, which might sound familiar. That becomes a de facto fascist party, is banned during the Second World War, and then the grandfather moves to apartheid South Africa, having had no connection to the place, in 1950 because he likes the sound of apartheid. And even Errol Musk says of the grandfather, he was an open neo-Nazi. You got Peter Thiel, who was a co-founder with Musk of PayPal. Thiel was born in Germany, but brought to South Africa as a young child. His father was a mining engineer, lived in Johannesburg, and then moved to Southwest Africa, which was then a South African colony, is now Namibia. And he went to school in Swakopmund, which was notorious as probably the last place on the planet where people still openly greeted each other with Heil Hitler and celebrated Hitler's birthday. He went to a German school there before moving to the United States when he was 10 or 11. You've got David Sachs, who was born in Cape Town. He's big in PayPal and is now Trump's AI and crypto czar. He moved to Tennessee as a relatively young child, but grew up in the white South African diaspora there. And you've got Roelof Botha, the grandson of Pik Botha, the last foreign minister of apartheid South Africa. He was the acceptable face of apartheid. You'll remember he used to run around the United States trying to put a gloss on how they were reforming things and that everything was getting better. So you see those four key people at the top of PayPal, and they all have this, very intimate connection to South Africa.
So that's who we're dealing with. That's the foundation of this, big sprouting of the BROLIGARCHY.
I think it's interesting that they have so many ties to South Africa. I was researching a cult leader the other day who had ties to South Africa, and I believe it may have been Keith Raniere from Nexium.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, why do so many of these guys have a tie to South Africa and then to the South African apartheid? And then, now we have our government wanting the only people that get refugee status are Afrikaners. Ironic, right?
The white genocide that's happening there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, that is a correlation that is difficult for a lot of people to understand, that there are a lot of Zionists who are anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish, but they love Israel because it is an ethnic fascist state doing a genocide, and they want to model themselves off of that, which I think is where the tech Zionism part of this comes in, because they call themselves tech Zionists, even the ones of them who are not Jewish. Yeah.
Like Balazi Saravisan, who wrote The Network State, which we talked about on our last episode. He literally calls himself a techno-Zionist. Yeah.
That's exactly right. As does Lucky, Andrew. Why do they all? Okay, I did not read The Lord of the Rings. Were you guys Lord of the Rings fans? But like,
yes, I was.
Okay. So can you explain, like, the Palantir is the sword that sees all from afar?
It's like a glass ball. It's basically a crystal, right?
I'm sorry. Yes,
like
it's the sword is Andriel. I got that wrong. It's Lucky Guy. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, go ahead. So yeah, it's the seeing stone.
Yeah, the seeing stone, and it was made for good to be able to see all, and then Sauron sort of took it and made it evil, and then started spying on everybody. And
yeah, why they chose a name that lays out that they're going to be the bad guys at the end of it?
Yeah,
is bizarre to me.
It's very interesting.
Crazy. They're just telegraphing it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't remember the first name of the Lucky Guy. What's his first name? I'm totally, my brain just left. Yeah, because we have 2 clips of him, and I thought I had written down his name, and I can't find it now. Okay. Anyway, Anduril, and they're doing a special on him on 60 Minutes tonight. Another guy who talks about himself as a Palmer Lucky. That's his name, Palmer Lucky. Anduril is another one of these AI weapon companies that wants to take over the world. And he's another person who considers himself a tech Zionist. And again, the reason they say that is because they want to avoid any regulations from our government, ever having to pay taxes, and they want to rule over or dismiss, one way or the other, the undesirables. And so Israel is a model state for that, just the way, South Africa.
Yeah, I think whether they truly believe in all the, the ideals that they're in, the white supremacy and the racism and the genocide stuff, ethnic cleansing goals, Israel is presenting a case for what they're putting out, what they're selling, the product they're selling. So it's easy for them to lean into it, even if they don't really believe it. You'll never know the line between how much do they believe this stuff or how much is it just profitable. But regardless, when you see a large swath of these tech bros are from South Africa,
and not the part of South Africa like raising a case of genocide. They're from the other part of South Africa.
When they have the connections in their family to the white supremacy, regardless if it's a choice or it's just who they are, it's all bad. But Israel presents like, here's where you can make some money off your racism. So lean into it, exploit it in the US.
Yeah.
But I do think they actually believe this stuff.
I do too. I mean, I think they just don't want to have anybody else telling them what to do. I mean, I think that's a thing that is that's why there are no good billionaires. Every billionaire should be taxed out of existence. And the ones like, Bill Gates, that there are still, or what's his name, Buffett, that Democrats will still insist are good billionaires. Meanwhile, all the other billionaires that we talk about, except for Thiel, used to be Democrats up until 2 seconds ago, right? They just, their only God is money. Like, that's it.
Karp calls himself a Democrat and a progressive. And we're going to get into the kinds of things he says in just a few minutes.
Super progressive. But yeah, I think they do not believe in democracy, and they're really clear about it. I think this is from 2010. This is Peter Thiel at a libertarian convention.
The initial founding vision was that we were going to use technology to change the whole world and basically overturn the monetary system of the world. We could never win an election on getting certain things because we were in such a small minority. But maybe you could actually unilaterally change the world without having to constantly convince people and beg people and plead with people who are never going to agree with you through a technological means. And this is where I think technology is this incredible alternative to politics.
Yeah, he's saying it's an alternative to democracy, really.
Yeah.
Not politics. Like
If your
it's
ideas
taking
can't
your
win.
vote. Yeah, your vote doesn't matter anymore. What a blessing.
And that's essentially the whole thing, you know, is about eroding democracy, more control, more the ability to you know, surveil people. I have a clip here from Alex Karp, who is the CEO, which you guys heard a little bit about earlier, talking about fear keeping people safe and sort of their modus operandi around that, if you guys would like to listen to that one.
Americans are the most loving, God-fearing, fair, least discriminatory people on the planet. And they want to know that if you're waking up and thinking about harming American citizens, or if American citizens are taken hostage and kept in dungeons, or if you're a foreign power sending fentanyl to poison our people, something really bad is going to happen to you and your friends and your cousins and your bank account and your mistress and whoever was involved. And, you know, when Americans are spending $1 trillion on defense, what I want and what I think my peers want is, why are these people keeping our citizens hostage, torturing our people, attacking our allies, maligning us in what was once called the United Nations, basically a discriminatory institution against anything good? We need to stand up, and those people need to be scared. And that's why this conference is so important, because we have the best products in the world, and we cannot have parity. Our adversaries do not have our moral compunction. If it's even, they will take advantage of our niceness, kindness, our desire to be at home in Nebraska or New Hampshire or wherever we live in our peaceful environments. And they need to wake up scared and go to bed scared. And if you give that to the American people will go back and say, and honestly, probably shouldn't say this is why I thought the Democrats were going to lose the election, why they did, because people want to live in peace. They want to go home. They do not want to hear your woke pagan ideology. They want to know they're safe. And safe means that the other person is scared. That's how you make someone safe. And the average American person understands this. Unfortunately, many of the intellectually captured institutions, funneled and intellectually owned by the Berkeley faculty, do not. And that's what they want. It's sure as hell what I want. And that's what Palantir and all the people in this room, I hope, we're here to serve the American people. And my version of service is the soldiers are happier, the enemies are scared, and Americans go back to enjoying the fact that we're the only one with a real tech scene in this country, and we're going to win everything. That's how I see it.
So wild.
It is so vile because obviously nobody feels peaceful when they can't afford a home or food or healthcare or education. But to him, there's so many things wrong with all of this. The idea that the only way to feel safe is if everybody else is scared and that there's no parity. So like there was an opportunity. And this was what first kind of radicalized me, you know, in 2015 with Bernie Sanders. I was terrified about global warming and climate disasters. And there was an opportunity, I mean, there still could be, for the globe to work together to solve the climate crisis, right? There was then another horrific opportunity that presented itself with COVID, where everything shut down and we had to act in community and like take care of each other. I mean, nobody even talks about it right now, but it used to be young people aren't really, it seems, affected. That was wrong. But everybody still wears a mask because you don't want to infect somebody else. Like, even if you're not worried for yourself, you're doing it for other people. That got smashed to hell. So here he's saying the Americans, US, are such a good, he didn't say God-loving, but peaceful group of people. And I have so much respect for them. I don't want them to vote or have any input in anything I do or say, but I'll just kill as many brown people as I can, both in our country and abroad. And that should be good enough. And that's all they want. And don't be woke.
Yeah,
And he says that.
Go ahead, Pat.
Well, he says that at the same time as he's saying, and the people voted the right way, and I knew it. I knew they would, which is contradictory, because if you truly know that people are going to vote the right way, you're not spinning this message that, oh, they're just, they're too nice to know what's good for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he also talks about their families need to be in fear, their significant other, their children, their community, basically. Yeah, and that their bank accounts need to be drained, and that they need to be surveilled, and that they need to be killed ultimately. And he goes on
their mistresses for no reason, just because they're just cheaters. They're like bad people. So like he's like
what we're doing in Gaza right now, just blow up entire apartment buildings and be done with it.
Where's daddy's home? I mean, truly. And also this idea that like everybody has to be scared of the big stick. Like it doesn't, I think that whole concept could be smashed, but he will not do that. And also, for a while, Sam Altman of OpenAI and I think even Bankman-Fried were talking about how AI was really dangerous. The very thing they were creating, super dangerous. So give us more contracts because we're the only ones that can protect from the possible danger. And they do the same thing, right? They help create, CIA creates ISIS or brings crack cocaine into our country, or fentanyl, or the Mujahideen, right? Like the way that all of these people function is they create the problem we all need to be scared of and then say, and now we're the ones who can fix it with our weapons.
And to be honest, I felt like in this diatribe, he wasn't talking to the rest of us. I feel like he's talking to the white suburbanites in gated communities that are terrified of crime. He's talking to the people like John Fetterman, who would chase down a black guy who's jogging in his neighborhood. Yeah. He's talking to those people who have this mythological fear, who, are terrified to walk the streets in New York because they just know they're going to get stabbed just by going to New York. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And that is who he's talking to. He's talking to his class of people. He's talking to the wealthy. We are going to keep these poors under control. Don't you worry. We are going to keep crime down. We're going to take care of the inner cities. Right. We're going to take care of, we're going to make sure that you can be safe, and they're fucking safe in their neighborhoods already. Yeah. They are. Who's doing far more crime, and what we really have to be worried about is United Healthcare denying 60% of claims. Yep. Or white collar corporations polluting our industry, or the fact that climate change is so bad we're having super tornadoes all across the country. Mass floods, forest fires, and he's talking about he's going to keep us safe. Yeah. He's not talking to a forest fire.
I think they're talking. I'll take what you're saying and even add more to it. I think they're talking even beyond the people in the street. They're just talking to investors. They're talking to people that can make a decision. It's like those commercials that are on the Super Bowl that are just high-end things that are tailored for CEOs, but everybody watches it because it's really made for the CEO. Because you're like, regular Joe doesn't invest in software business for, their daily life. So we're out of the equation now. Like, if anything, the public piece is just him saying, look, I can convince the public, but he's still talking beyond the public.
Yep.
Yeah. And he's saying fear is what will keep us safe, living in fear every day. And that whole sentiment is extraordinarily fascistic. He talks about also controlling narratives, later on. And we'll talk about that when we kind of get into the Palestinian protest stuff. But, he talks about how, college protests are enemies, and
they should all be sent to North Korea.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Did we want to play the Perfect Union clip really quick?
Yeah. That's a really good overview of how it all fits together.
Palantir is here to disrupt and make the institutions we partner with the very best in the world, and when it's necessary, to scare enemies and on occasion kill them.
Check out Palantir shares surging 22% after the company cited a boom in demand for its AI software from the U.S. government.
We're doing it. We're doing it. And I'm sure you're enjoying this as much as I am.
Palantir, a tech company based here in Denver, claims they can revolutionize government systems with their data analysis software, newly powered by artificial intelligence.
They've been hired by the Department of Defense, the FBI, local police departments, and even the IRS and Wendy's to take in the information those organizations collect even more information, and use that data to draw conclusions. So Thiel pulled from his network to build out a new company. One of the first hires was Thiel's Stanford Law School roommate, Alex Karp, who'd gone on after Stanford to get a PhD in not business or computer science or engineering, but neoclassical social theory. They named the company Palantir, after the Palantiri from J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings.
In Lord of the Rings, a Palantir stone is a magical object that allows its users to predict the future or to see what's going on in a remote location.
It was originally created by the elves. It was meant to be used for good purposes. It is potentially a very dangerous technology. It's very powerful.
Long have you hunted me?
So that's Middle-earth, but what does Palantir do in a regular Earth?
And what we do is we use what legal scholars call predicate-based search. So we would look at you, and then we would go out and say, oh, there's lots of different things in your life that may be indicative of someone involved in bad behavior.
Put simpler, they make software that makes it easier for their customers to collect and analyze data, and then act on that analysis with and without AI. By 2013, 10 years after their founding, Palantir's client list included the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the Marines, the Air Force, Special Operations Command, and more.
So they're collecting all of our data. They're stealing all of our data, both to feed their large language models, their, the chat GPTs and all of that kind of stuff, which they will then use obviously to replace anything creative and, just workers, all of that. But the other thing is, they're both nefarious, but the pre-crime stuff, taking our data to analyze who is more likely to commit a crime and what kind of crime.
Yeah.
And it won't shock anybody, but it turns out it's mostly Black people, according to them. Or brown people in the Middle East. Right. That is how it always ends up. Yeah.
The problem, there's so many problems with this business model, but if you get hired by a company and Palantir wants to make money, what's the company goal? Oh, the company goal is to bomb more brown people, to sell more bombs. Well, they can tweak the algorithm and put it in a way that AI finds more people to shoot and kill, which is what they did with Lavender in Israel. So it's not a bug, it's a feature that this AI sucks a lot and targets the wrong people.
Go ahead. I keep interrupting, so I'm just going to have more wine. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was muting because my dog was coughing. Poor thing. She's got some allergies going on right now, and she's like, oh, ah.
Me half the time.
But the
guys hear that it's Rhea. She's got a cold. So
the pre-crime stuff is so scary. It's all Minority Report, and that is something that also they started. Palantir sold itself to the U.S. government in 2003, 2004, when we invaded Iraq and Afghanistan. And shocker, the people indigenous to those countries didn't want American goons coming, bombing them and shooting them up. So there was a lot of insurgency, which of course the U.S. then called them terrorists who just didn't want an invading foreign power, destroying their world. And that was, and he offered it often for free. Karp and Palantir offered their service of data mining, of surveilling all of these people for free to try to predict who might explode an IED near you, which families whose doors you knock on. Well, what ends up happening is everybody becomes the enemy, right? everybody is a potential threat to your life. And so that, and then they brought that exact same mentality, which is atrocious, and we should all fight it every step of the way. But then they brought that right back to the US. They did it in New Orleans. They did it in New York City. They're doing it LAPD. They have now contracts with police forces in all of our major cities.
And let's show who gave them the free contract in New Orleans to surveil people, which was ended in 2018. But let's take a look. It was
the snake himself. Yeah, or lizard, whatever.
James Carville and Bill Clinton.
Yep. Listen, the crime bill didn't come from nowhere, right? Like, we all talk about Biden saying he wrote it, but like, that was a Clinton Carville, regime bill, the crime bill.
Yeah, and this article from Bloomberg says, by his account, Palantir was looking for pro bono opportunities.
Which is code for a corporate dry run. Like, we'll do it for free for you.
Yep, exactly. And then that way that they labeled it as like a philanthropic exercise, and even wrote all these papers on how fabulous it was working. Turns out it was shit. Yep. And the city council didn't even know. The city council of New Orleans didn't even know that this was happening. And James Carville later said that was a mistake. We should have never done that. The Democrats should have never been involved. But James Carville, who's still making rounds on the media right now, talking about impending fascism, gave Palantir a free contract to do pre-crime in New Orleans, which is a predominantly black city.
Yes.
And none of this is going to change. Democrats take over, the next election, even things in the midterms, it doesn't change because these guys they're too close to power on both sides, and they have been the whole time, which is why that's the important point of pointing out Carville. But historically, Democrats are behind all the cop cities equally.
And the funding of ICE. Hey, Amazon Piss Jugs, thank you so much. Cheers to you. Thank you. Just because I don't want to lose sight of that. It disappears as we keep going. They are equally being funded. I mean, listen, what was it? 1,300% increase in ICE's budget under Obama. Democrats need to abolish like that. I mean, Democrats, whatever. I don't know why I keep talking about Democrats. We need to be fighting to abolish ICE entirely. And instead, we're giving them contracts with Palantir.
Yeah, some of the greatest, I will show this graphic as well. The contracts that we have here, do you guys see how there's several of these that were from 2024 under the Biden administration? Yep. So Palantir secures $401 million follow-up on Army Vantage support contract. Palantir secures $99 million Army contract for user-centered data mining, and ML, which is why am I forgetting what that's called right now?
Wait, sorry, where are you looking right now? Which one are you looking at?
It's the something learning, machine learning. Sorry, I was drawing a blank on machine learning. My ex-husband used to do that. I don't know why I was drawing a blank. Palantir existing contract with ICE has already toppled $88 million, and immigration systems will cost another $30 million. They did $178 million deal with Titan, which Androl has also partnered with. That guy we talked about earlier, Palmer Luckey. And then $480 million contract for Maven. And Maven is like a surveillance network. $2.5 billion since 2009, according to this recent article from The Hill. More than $1.3 billion of that coming from the Department of Defense alone. But that other $1.2 billion are scattered across agencies, all across different government agencies that are using their monitoring systems and their machine learning algorithms to dig and to, probably CIA, probably FBI, which wouldn't fall under necessarily the Department of Defense and other agencies.
And then it comes to, that. So first of all, the Kimmy's comment here, that so many of our modern problems come back to the fact that prison labor is slave labor, which comes back to capitalism. Because how are you going to continue to steal people's labor and keep sucking out the most profit from it if you have to pay them? And so eventually you just don't pay them. You make everything that they do illegal. You make the fact that you don't pay them enough to have a home and then they're homeless illegal. You make the fact that they are in medical debt or, school loans, whatever, all of those things. And then the other thing is the social media aspect of it. And again, all of these things, keep boomeranging back to us. We're now seeing people being deported or put in, facilities out of their own state just for protesting a genocide. But, at the very beginning of Israel's genocide on Gaza, we saw how people who even just said how they felt sorry for a bombing of civilians in Rafah were arrested. And the only way that people knew that they felt sorry for them was because of a status on WhatsApp or Facebook. So all of that is being mined by these ghouls to say, if you support, it's a pre-crime. Pre-crime is you're born Black or brown in this country, or you're Palestinian. Babies in Palestine or in Gaza or West Bank or any Palestinians are considered future terrorists. That's how they're seen. Everybody is Hamas. Everybody's a terrorist. And that's how, and again, this goes back to like Nazism. That's how they talked about Jewish babies. If we don't kill the Jewish babies also, they're going to grow up to seek revenge.
And he uses a lot of terminology, and we'll get more into this, but a lot of terminology about culture and Western values and culture and culture and culture. He talks about culture all the time. And what he's talking about with culture is essentially Western culture only. And one of the things that struck me about when we were listening earlier to his whole diatribe, he also mentioned, Karp also mentioned, he mentioned culture in that, but then he mentioned that the US is going to be, and the West is going to be the only technologically advanced place. We're going to win, meaning suppressing technology elsewhere, seeding fear elsewhere, and thwarting their technology so that the only technologically advanced country is us. And how do you think they're going to do that? With warfare.
Yeah.
By blowing up countries that attempt to that aren't Western aligned. Essentially, it's colonialism on a grand scale, and imperialism is he's just a fucking imperialist.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, it's a war we can't actually win, but they will profit off it immensely. We can't win the tech war with China. Like that's ludicrous. The manufacturing, they'll always be able manufacturing things cheaper. It's just a way for these guys to justify making money, and these cop cities and all this. It's just, they've got this built-in hand in the government to extract money, and they just find excuses to extract more money and fear. People are already afraid of what they have online to get a job. Well, that gets you on his algorithms flagged. So that's a couple points against you according to AI.
Yep.
So maybe you attend a protest. Oh, that's a couple more points. And I noticed you're not white. Lots of points because you're not culturally American,
like a bucket full
as
of
we
points.
are.
Yeah.
And
this video of, because so we, last week we talked about how Hassan Piker was held for hours when he was trying to re-enter the country, and asked about, does he support Hamas, and has he said negative things about Trump? And we know all of these either students or teachers, graduate students who are here legally on visas, who are again, they're not being even charged. Like Mahmoud Khalil is still in prison. He's still in Louisiana in prison. He has not been charged with anything. And I don't know how they got out the other graduate student from Columbia, who was the head of the Buddhist club there, who is in Vermont. But again, not charged with anything, right? So but scraping our social media is like a new frontier. And all the Cambridge Analytica stuff that happened in 2016, Mark Zuckerberg has now, he gives away, he's gotten a young girl and her mother arrested who were talking in their Facebook Messenger app about plans to go out of state because the young woman needed an abortion. So nothing is private. Anything that you put online in any fashion will be used against you. All of it. Like, I am scared to go out of the country, not that I have the money to right now, because I was born in Italy, even though I'm an American citizen born to US parents who happened to be in Rome when I was born. But they're going to find ways. They will, and by the way, once you're in some hellhole in Louisiana, or they just ship you off to El Salvador and say, you have a strange tattoo, there's no habeas corpus. There's no due process. So this is a totalitarian state that they want.
And look, that it's already working, because it doesn't have to completely work. It just, if 25% of the people in the country are less likely to be vocal anti-government, like, that's a huge win for fascism, for capitalism. Like, it doesn't have to be a complete like Nazi state, but there's 25% less resistance because a lot of people just work on fear, and they really think these things are going to happen immediately, even though they're not, even though some of them are. So they're not wrong, but even if it doesn't affect us all completely, it's already working.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, there's some other contracts that these jerks have. And, some of the contracts that they have are with not just the military industrial complex, because there's a ton with that, but they also have it with
Okay, this is terrifying. This is actually terrifying. So Laura, I don't know if I'm saying her name right, but Laura Myers, she got COVID very early on, before, like, in, I think, March of 2020. And it ravaged her body. And it was before you could even be vaccinated. She's a great person to follow, because I think she used to be a liberal. She really started digging in to all of the information. And I think it kind of disabused her of the notion that either party was at all concerned with science or protecting, civilians in our country or in the world. But this is, Palantir was just given an enormous contract with the National Health Service in England. And what that does is it gives them all of our biometric information. Sorry. Yes, we're going to do a timeline. I can't do, I'm like, it's too much in my brain. Yes, we're going to do a funny soon. I swear we're going to do it.
We'll do one before we switch over to talking about how it impacted Gaza, because that is some heavy stuff.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so here is a 5-year contract in December 2022, where you remember we used to have, and listen, we all know, like, we talk about COVID on this show every week. I am, I don't even know how many shots I've had at this point. I don't go inside without a mask. Like, we're very, I believe that COVID is not just a cold. I take it very seriously. That said, I do not want my biometric data going to these monsters. They are getting contracts both in the UK and here. Now they have all of our biometric data. They have samples of our blood. But this is the thing that Laura pointed out in this thread of hers about Palantir and the CDC, is they went from disease surveillance to buying tens of $millions in gold bars, buying their way into the NHS, and wanting to decipher the mysteries of long COVID. That was their plan, how they talked about themselves in 2023. And now basically all they do, both Anduril, Palantir, all of these tech companies, is getting contracts for death machines. That's where it always leads.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I don't want my science researchy people in charge of killing people. And these guys are so big they can't fail, and we can't vote them out, and they can't fail because the contracts will just be there. Like however unpopular we make Palantir, it won't stop them from getting government contracts.
Yeah.
They've already secured them forever. So I mean, we just have to truly fight these companies and organizations and not wait to vote a Democrat in or something.
Right. And there's a conflict of interest because you not only have them working with, there was something really creepy that I heard Palmer Luckey say in an interview yesterday, and he's partnered, Andriel has also partnered with Palantir on like autonomous vehicles. This guy, he developed Oculus. We probably will do a whole show on this loser, so we won't dig into him too much here. But this guy's a total creep. And he was talking about how, it would be great for them to develop, keeping in mind that they are partnered with Palantir, for them to develop some kind of micro disease that just lays in your body and then blows up on you whenever they hit a switch. Oh, that's awesome. It's like the beepers and that they used in
the pagers in
Yemen,
Lebanon.
but yeah, and this, so Palantir also works with insurance companies, big pharma. So they're going to be doing all this data research through government contracts and the CDC on disease and all of these other things. What are they going to do? They're going to monetize it with who they have conflicts of interest with.
Yep.
Well, and you look at United Healthcare and, the Luigi incident, the guy they took out implemented an AI system to reject claims. So it's like, at least like the Luigi or whoever actually did that, they're targeting the person most responsible for implementing a system that is fraudulent by design. So United Healthcare is another example of AI by design, making profits for the companies, but it's not actually a good, effective learning system. It just learns to deny claims, which is what United Healthcare wanted.
Exactly. Well, just like, there's this big admission now, which I think this is even too low, but Israel and IDF are saying that 82% of the people who have been killed this last month that they've killed were civilians. I mean, it's so much more than just this past month, and it's so much more than 82%, right? But if you believe that you're dealing with a group of people who are either terrorists or pre-terrorists, which is how they see anybody who it's all like the George W. Bush thing. You're either with us or against us, right? Okay, what should we show? Let's show something a little lighter, and then we'll come back to the pre-crime stuff and Gaza. You want to do that?
Yeah.
This is our version of a moment, a timeline cleanse.
It's a BROLIGARCHY timeline cleanse.
To grab a beer or something.
Yes. Oh my God, more wine.
Let's see. Let's watch Zuckerberg's assistant.
Okay, everybody, here we go. Mark, just act normal. You're going to do great. Just like we practiced, okay?
You drink coffee, man, or no?
Nah. Fuck.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, you've had it.
I have. Hey, Mark, just let Theo drive for this one. Let's just let him just say, hey, bro, I don't drink coffee. Just try that.
Sometimes on vacation, I'll drink it recreationally. It's like every once in a while.
Okay, Mark, just move on from coffee, okay?
I just hate anything that messes with, I don't like any kind of chemicals or anything like that.
Move on from coffee, Mark.
I feel like you want your car to have almost as much horsepower as your helicopter. I feel like is a rule of thumb.
It's probably a rule of a very rich thumb.
Mark, I need this job, so I'm going to beg you one last time. Just try and be relatable.
And where were you in school at, Mark?
Harvard.
Fuck it, I quit.
That's pretty funny. I didn't know Theo Von until just this past year. I mean, I still don't really know him, but apparently he's in the Joe Rogan circle, right? But he is also has cried on camera several times about the genocide of Palestinians. And yet just last week, he's like down in Mar-a-Lago or Miami or wherever the fuck with Trump's daughter, with Ivanka and Jared Kushner.
Yeah. To me, look, I followed him for a while. He's sort of Joe Rogan with a little more empathy, but they both have the same flaw of whoever's in front of them can convince them of whatever they want.
And money.
They also do that false equivalency. He does that false equivalency. I don't know about this topic, so I'm going to pretend like
just asking questions.
I'm just interviewing this neo-Nazi, but I didn't really research that they were a neo-Nazi before I interviewed them. I don't know, I'm just playing dumb on this. We're just talking here.
Yeah.
Exactly. Same thing that Rogan does.
Yeah.
And Tim Pool used to do before he went totally where he's gone.
Yeah, I guess I have to familiarize myself with some of these people, but Jesus Louise. But anyway, that's very funny. And oh my God, I think listen, I know this is something we've all talked about before. Like, I'm a big dork. I'm a geek. I was, I have glasses. I'm nerdy, all that kind of stuff. I have nothing against nerds. But these particular men are like the fact that it's like the Dungeons and Dragons jokes and the fact that they name their death cult companies after Lord of the Rings and Tolkien, who was clearly on the exact 180 side of how they want this world to be.
It's like a revenge game. And then you've also got, it's like, they do have the nerd stigma that they're kind of coming back from, Revenge of the Nerds kind of vibe or something. But then they're all like Karp, Musk, they're clearly on some drugs in public to hype them up and make them more social maybe in their minds because this is who they are. But either way, the stability for the people running the most powerful companies on earth that affect all of us now, being so clearly on drugs in front of the public, not giving a shit because it doesn't matter, because our votes don't matter. They're talking past us to the politicians and donors. And
they think they're super geniuses. They're narcissists. Before our show, I said that I'm, really, if I see a guy wearing that's a CEO with rolled up pants legs and barefoot, like the guy from The Glass Onion, I am going to be sus. He's got a man bun. And, there was, I think it was Bill Burr, and maybe we'll play this clip on one of our episodes, but he was joking about how, you can always tell who the billionaire CEO is because they'll be the one in the ripped up t-shirt and holes in their jeans, but their workers could never dress that way and come into work and everyone else is wearing suits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're friends. We're family. Everything's cool. You're fired. You're dead.
Yeah, let's go to my yogi hut and we'll sit peacefully. Oh, by the way, you're fired. Enjoy the PO day.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. Should we move on to what's happening and how it's being used in Gaza? You had a really fantastic interview, Zainab. If anybody has not seen the full show, it was with Abby Martin about 2 days ago. It was fantastic. But we pulled a couple of clips and she really lays it out, I think, so beautifully with you. Do you want to just start with that?
Yeah, we can do the first clip of that at least. Yeah. I think the second one kind of goes into the policing, but yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh my God. My God. There's so much to say. First of all, the fact that Trump's second term has really folded in all of the Silicon Valley tech oligarchs who kind of virtue signaled during the first term that they were all up in arms about, Trump's policies and what Trump was standing for. All of the pretenses lifted, they are all in. Okay, when we look at something like Palantir, and Peter Thiel and the PayPal mafia. Just look at what Palantir has been doing in Gaza. You mentioned the Lavender program, the Daddy's Home. where I think they recognized with the AI system that has God knows how much of a failure rate. I mean, just look at the AI implementation in the United Healthcare, doling out claims and denial of claims, 90% error rate. That's the going error rate with some of these AI programs. So just imagine that. Put that in your back pocket when you're thinking of they are using a callous robotic system to determine who to kill. And not only who to kill alongside their families and whoever's in the proximity of a phone.
It is so deeply sick, and it only happens if you can dehumanize a whole nation or a whole segment of your population. I mean, it's
the dehumanization is the vehicle, you know, and we will get into what the AI is, but I think we should take a listen to how Karp responded to a protester that called him out on this shit.
Yep.
That a few people get wealthy, and if you said platitudes that were obviously stupid, you could.
You're getting wealthy off of killing Palestinians. With Palantir kills Palestinians with their AI and technology.
Oh.
You're killing my family in Palestine.
Yeah. And you know.
How do you sleep at night?
Well, if you do, you want to hear my answer?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So, I think the primary cause of death to Palestinians. Okay. Do you want to hear the answer, or do you want to yell? Well, you don't want to hear an answer? Obviously. So the primary source of death in Palestine is the fact that Hamas has realized that there are millions and millions of useful idiots that will.
Can we get security up there?
Mostly terrorists, that's true. I believe she believes I'm evil. I believe she's an unwitting product of an evil force, Hamas. That she unwittingly is part of their strategy, that she is a product. And the most important thing, arguably, in the book, or what Palantir, or what you could learn, is do not become a product of an ideology that sounds sensible.
Oh my God.
Do not become a product of an ideology that makes sense.
It just sounds sensible. These are the same people who openly admit that their ideas couldn't win in a democracy. So they're bypassing.
And you're saying that this lady who stands up and says my family and people are dying in Palestine, you're saying you're a product? Like you wouldn't care if they were dying if you knew something different? And then this guy who's got if you even believe the numbers that Israel claims, that's an 18% success rate in finding the actual people or who are the terrorists. So like you're bragging that you 82%, you're 82% wrong, and you're mad at somebody for standing up and said, my people.
I mean, they are bombing people in tents. They are double tapping emergency workers, journalists who were documenting October 7th. They openly admit, well, he documented it, so he's Hamas. And none of the US media, of corporate media, speaks up for this at all. And what they really don't seem to understand is that it's going to happen to them. Because right now they're setting something up that for some people who are heavily propagandized to believe that, Hamas are terrorists and that Ansar Allah are our enemies, or whatever people have been conditioned to believe, right? So they can make excuses for that somehow that's okay because these people are animals. They'll grow up to be terrorists. But then it's, oh, you criticize Trump. oh, wait, you don't like capitalism. Wait, you're going to fight for Cop City not to be built. Like, they are going to take this logic to every part of anybody that you're either with us or against us. And the only ideology is the people in power just want uniform support from the people. So, right. I mean, this is going to end so poorly for the people who are too cowardly or ignorant to be speaking out or who haven't spoken out. It's still going to end poorly for them. They think they're protected. They're not.
And there's three parts. There's three parts to lavender that people should understand. There's the primary lavender that just basically is blanketly targeting everyone, and it's also doing surveillance in the West Bank so that they can go and round people up, scouring social media to arrest people who have any type of dissent, or even post that Palestinians are living human beings and not Hamas. You know, they come to people's homes for even showing any, like you said earlier, sympathy for people being blown up in Rafah.
Yeah.
And the second one, or the other one that they have, is called Daddy's Home, and Daddy's Home targets men that are below the age 30 blanketly, and anyone who supposedly has ties to quote unquote Hamas. But Hamas, and we were talking about this in the interview with Abby as well, Hamas is the governing body, and you guys have mentioned this as well. So it's people that do like infrastructure work, people that work at the DMV, people that worked in the medical institution,
garbage collecting, like whatever, any part of just society, of municipal society.
Yeah. So they would target these people, but it's called Daddy's Home because they would wait until the individual was back home in order to target them at home and blow up an entire apartment building, housing unit, whatever it might be, which is horrific. And they called it Daddy's Home. The last one is called The Gospel, which is very effing creepy.
Yeah.
And the Gospel targets specific infrastructure. And it was reported that some of the infrastructure that it was targeting were things like water reservoirs, bakeries, hospitals, schools. So the AI system is being used. It's not just inefficient or, it's strategically inefficient because it's a secondary step away from having personal accountability, right? We're pressing a button. The computer's really doing the genocide. We're not doing the genocide. We've just written the algorithms that the computer's utilizing that's doing blanket warfare and not taking civilian cost into effect. When Karp talks about how it's going to minimize civilian death and civilian murder, and at the same time is working with partnering with all these industries that are literally blanketly killing people in Palestine, blowing up the infrastructure. And this is a mechanized AI-powered genocide, with autonomous drones, autonomous vehicles, mass surveillance, and it's all being powered in part by these assholes from Palantir, these maniacs, these heartless narcissists.
100%. And if they fixed it to where it did what they claimed to, and was, had a 90% success rate, even, which would be terrible. That's still terrible.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be working there. They wouldn't have the contracts.
Right.
He knows, his business knows, failing to identify targets correctly is what Israel wants. It's what the US government wants. It's what Netanyahu wants. It's what the Zionists want. And that's why there's no incentive to make this thing work correctly. The incentive is to make this target innocent people.
And also they test out their weapons for the whole world to see in the petri dish of Palestinians. So they test all of it. They just discovered, a new, it's not a barcode, but a new, identification number on a fragment that just bombed people in tents, not even tents. There's like blankets on, cinder blocks. So all of their new weaponry, they test out first on the people of Gaza and the West Bank, Palestinians, and then they advertise when they do their drone, huge drone, what's it called? Conventions, like Israeli weaponry, they advertise that it's already been tested on the terrorists in Gaza.
Yeah. And they have specific, they do have kill list. And I know that you pulled some graphics showing that as well.
Yeah. I'll put on my readers. How U.S. intelligence and an American company feed Israel's killing machine in Gaza. And this was from a year ago, but of course this, has been going on much longer than this. So this is from The Nation. And they say, because there are so many civilians who make it onto that list, and then there's nothing you can do about it. And such horrendous mistakes are hard to understand, considering the enormous amount of advanced targeting AI hardware and software provided to the Israeli military and spy agencies, some of it by one American company in particular, Palantir Technologies. We stand with Israel, the Denver-based company said in posts on X and LinkedIn. The board of directors of Palantir will be gathering in Tel Aviv next week for its first meeting of the new year. Our work in the region has never been more vital, and it will continue. As one of the world's most advanced data mining companies with ties to the CIA, Palantir's work was supplying Israel's military and intelligence agencies with advanced and powerful targeting capabilities, the precise capabilities that allowed Israel to place 3 drone-fired missiles into 3 clearly marked aid vehicles. So for years, the mythology of Israel was they were the most moral army in the world, and they had precision targeting. They talked about that a terrorist would, a Hamas terrorist or a Palestinian terrorist would pick up his phone, the phone would ring, he'd pick it up, and 3 seconds later, a missile would go through his window and kill just him. Even in 2004, when Israel killed 8 civilians, along with somebody they claimed was a Hamas militant, who the hell knows, because they lie all the time, but that was considered a bridge too far, or what my expressions are gone 3 glasses in. Sorry.
Obama.
And even Ari Fleischer, George W. Bush's spokesperson, said, we condemn the killing of civilians. We don't kill 8 civilians just to get 1 terrorist, right? But that's how specifically they know how to target the people they want to target. And now they bomb whole buildings, whole neighborhoods. They know exactly what they're doing. And they're doing it with the help of this AI. Yeah, it's 100% intentional.
Yeah, and now it's 8.2 to get 1, or that's not the exact math, but like by their own standards, they're saying openly
200. They'll kill 200 people in a hospital and say, "Oh well, it was Hamas, somewhere in there." Yeah. Okay, so just going back a little bit to we know that I'm sorry, it's also upsetting, and I'm not even sure which way to catapult here. The pre-crime idea, do we want to
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Because Gaza is a testing ground, and that leads into, there's been testing grounds here. So Gaza is a testing ground on a broader scale, but it completely ties back to what they've already been doing here with the surveillance and with our police forces being trained by the IDF, and with, we had mentioned the Democrats before seeded the surveillance in New Orleans, but they have a whole plan around this pre-crime, and that's going to later tie into when we're talking about how they have ties with white supremacy, with colonialism, with what they consider techno-Zionism, which is essentially like another form of Nazism in the United States. So I think that it shows where we're headed with the mass control that these Palantir itself, as well as Doge and other agencies, are trying to implement on the American people here within the borders here.
And it only works if you build in that mythology that there are some people who are chosen, right? That there is a master race. Like each different group has its own verbiage to describe what they think is, the master race on one level or another. But again, I think it's so important that Zionism is extricated from Judaism in everybody's head, because it has nothing to do with Jewish values, even though they will try to conflate it to muddy the waters.
Well, yeah, Karp's big thing is woke pagans. Like, that you're woke and not religious is like, that's 10 points on his list with the algorithm,
Isn't that the thing they say about China and the CCP is a social credit score? And meanwhile, like, that's how they're ranking everybody, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They want a westernized social credit score.
Yeah.
And we can play this thing from William, what's his name? Bartlett?
Yeah. This was in, I think, 2014. Oh, wait, are you talking about the NYPD chief? The pre-crime?
Oh, yeah, the NYPD.
Bratton is his. I just want to make sure, because a lot of these names are very similar. I want to make sure we're both in the same thing. The idea of pre-crime.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry about that. I thought he was the guy from Palantir. They did muddy.
Yeah.
The demons are all the same.
Yeah.
Predictive policing, think Tom Cruise Minority Report back in 2002, how out of unreal that scene with him waving his hand on that shot. I can do that in my office now. That predictive policing is really the ability with the right algorithms that we can predict with a high degree of certainty, increasing certainty, that in a geographic area, in a certain time frame, absent putting a police officer in there, that a crime will likely occur.
Did you catch the correction, the text underneath? He said with the right algorithms, and it said white algorithms.
Oh no,
which is such a perfect fit,
Oh, my
because
God.
that's what it is. It's socioeconomic, and
The irony.
obviously brown people are going to be targeted more.
Well, okay. So there is a woman who wrote Weapons of Math Destruction, and she explains how the pre-crime idea and the data they pull is from its very foundation racist. The pre-crime. Here we go.
When you think about algorithms in the criminal justice system, you have to really think about the data and how the data is built. I'm Kathy O'Neill. I'm a math nerd, data scientist, and author. So the way predictive policing works is they take the data, they look for crime data, and they really don't have crime data, so they use their best proxy for it, which is usually arrest data, which means that police are basically sent back to the same neighborhoods where they're already over-policing. And in particular, they're not sent to neighborhoods that have crime, but those crimes aren't found. Now, if you think about what that means for the algorithms, where you're looking for crimes based on the location of previous arrests or previous convictions or even previous reported crime, that kind of algorithm is intrinsically biased. And then there's another kind of algorithm that is a little downstream from the predictive policing algorithm. It's called a recidivism risk algorithm. Recidivism risk algorithms are used by judges to determine how long to sentence a defendant. And the higher risk of recidivism, which is the risk of returning to prison sometime in the future, or even just getting arrested in the future, the higher risk, the longer someone gets sentenced. And what ProPublica found was the Compass model, which is one version of a recidivism risk model, made mistakes by sending people to prison longer, that kind of mistake, twice as often for African American defendants as for white defendants, at least in Broward County, Florida. And there's another kind of mistake you can make, which is you look like you're not coming back, you look low risk, but you actually do come back. That kind of risk, that kind of mistake was made twice as often for white defendants as for African American defendants.
So the more you surveil a group of people, the more you find that predictively they're probably going to commit a crime, right? It's the whole broken windows idea. So the more they get arrested, and you can't convict somebody unless that person's been arrested. So just by, just definitionally, the more of a group you arrest, the more that group will be proportionately convicted, right? So it's all self-fulfilling. And then the pre-crime gets to be, well, we are giving hundreds of millions of dollars to private prisons, which we need to fill because we need to make our pals rich, but also to do slave labor for big corporations. And so it just becomes this disgusting snowball effect that they can justify and act like, oh, no, it's data. It's just data. Did you read the data? It's so sick. And I don't know what's in their brains or their minds. I don't know if they know what they're doing. It doesn't matter. They are not making anybody safer. They're destroying the world with this.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah, go
They're
ahead.
hired to find these things to justify increasing police budgets.
Yep.
And it's also being utilized right now by ICE to basically, and Batar, the terrorist organization, I believe, Batar, hyper Zionist, are sending lists, but also utilizing AI, partnering with AI in order to find people that are dissenting and that are anti-genocide, for anti-genocide protesters, etc. People coming back into the country, people like Hassan Piker, who comes back into the country and is being accosted. People are being asked for their phones to be seen and if they're loyal to the US and if they've ever had criticisms of Israel when they're coming. But it's also targeting migrants based on, jaywalking or not even having anything for nothing. How many students do we want to deport that have visas that have never committed a crime because of some tweet they made one time? They're using this AI right now to specifically target people using data mining, using as we were talking about the ML systems, the machine learning systems, in order to find and data mine our social media to target people specifically. They're doing it, and it's racist. Their algorithms are targeting people probably based, I would assume, on names. That might sound Middle Eastern.
100%. Oh, yeah. They're doing it. Sort of thing. Definitely. That's part of their whole deal with ICE, which...
I think it all plays into the fear. They love the success rate not being very good. They like that it makes a lot of mistakes. They like that a guy like Hassan he got detained on purpose,
right,
to flag. Even this guy can get detained. So what does that mean to you little peons with your tweets?
Or like doctors, like a kidney specialist. I think I can't remember if she's a Turkish national, but a head of the department on, I'm not a doctor, but she was a specialist on kidney research, and they deported her. They sent her back as she was trying to come into this country. And the other thing, because this is what always happens with, yes, they're starting, they start with Black and brown people. They start with people they consider on any level, disabled or neurodivergent. And very quickly, it's labor leaders. That's the other people that they are focused on. People who are heading up unions for the rank and file, not the people who are actually getting the big contracts, who are meant to suppress the labor. But yeah, and now they have all of these ICE contracts with Palantir, where they are for sure looking at names. ICE has awarded Palantir Technologies a $30 million contract to develop new software platform to expand surveillance and enforcement operations, building on Palantir's decade-long collaboration with ICE. Thanks, George W. and fucking Obama. Key features and functions. Immigration OS will give ICE real-time visibility into visa overstay, self-deportation cases, and individuals flagged for removal, including foreign students flagged for removal for protesting U.S.-Israeli genocide. Immigration OS operating system will integrate data from multiple government database systems, helping ICE track immigration violators and coordinate with agencies like Customs and Border Protection. Designed to streamline the entire immigration enforcement process from identification to removal, aiming to reduce time, labor, and resource costs, which, of course, it's going to get us into Doge, but we should probably do a happy break unless you guys want to add to that.
No, we will. But the whole point of that is mistakes will be made, but who is accountable if there is a mistake? And there are massive mistakes all over every AI industry, and nobody's held accountable.
Yep.
Like I said before, because they all want these mistakes. They profit from these mistakes. They benefit from the fear of these mistakes.
Yep.
But yeah. All right, are we going into Elon a little bit, or I don't know, because I have one of these is on Elon.
Yeah, and then I do want to show the Jewish supremacy thing because I think it feeds into everything, but we can show that on the other side. I want permission to backtrack a little bit after we do something fun. Go ahead.
All right, let's do another all billionaires are bad.
Yeah, it's like, make comedy legal again. So
I wish it was illegal for you to do comedy.
it's just like, it's your opinion. Yeah, everybody's got an opinion. Opinions are like assholes. Yeah, everybody's got one.
Your eyes look like assholes.
Okay, well, shut up. So, in the front row, what do you do for work?
I'm a gynecologist.
Gynecologist. What is this guy, like a pervert or something?
You have 10 kids with multiple women.
Okay, well, so somebody asked me something. Somebody asked me what came in the mail today.
What came in the mail today, Elon?
These nuts.
God damn it. Boo, fuck you. Boo.
I love comedy. Boo. Comedy is so back. Yes, comedy's back.
You suck! Yeah. Get off the stage! You suck! What the fuck are you doing?
That's pretty much what's happening. Comedy's back. I love comedy. Make comedy legal again. So
he's great. That's comedy's back, baby. Free speech is back also, apparently. Man, it's
really
hard
good
'cause
impersonation.
you want to laugh at them, and yet they're so evil and dangerous. But he did it really
Oh no, we should definitely make fun of them at the same time.
Yeah.
They're such megalomaniac narcissists that part of resistance is to make fun of these chuds.
Yeah.
That's part of it. That's part of the resistance, damn it.
It has to be.
Absolutely. And for Musk to make that stupid, ugly fucking truck was such a layup for us because that thing, Cybertruck, is such trash. And kudos to the left and at least we are trashing Tesla's stock.
Yeah.
As it deserves to be trashed.
Yes.
It should be embarrassing to own any Tesla. I understand if you bought it when you thought he was a good guy.
Yeah.
But don't buy one now or we're coming for you.
I mean, I don't even know who's around who could afford one now, but yeah, exactly. Okay. Just because we were talking about the white supremacy and the master race and how so many of these people, even if they're not Jewish, call themselves techno-Zionists because of people like Balaji, also not Jewish, but these network states, they are modeled after the way Israel has complete surveillance and domination over the undesirables. And that's how they want to treat all of us. So this is Norm Coleman, who used to be a U.S. state, I think he was a senator or a representative, I'm not sure, talking at the Jewish News Press just recently.
A majority of Gen Z have an unfavorable impression of Israel. And my friends, I think the reason for that is that we're losing the digital war. Okay, they're getting their information from TikTok and whatever it is, and we're losing that war. When you think about it, the masters of the universe are Jews. You know, we've got Altman and AI, we got Zuckerberg, we got Sergey Brin, we got the whole group across the board. Jan Combs, founded WhatsApp. It's us. And we have to figure out a way to win the digital battle. Amelia, we got to get our digital sneakers on so that the truth can prevail over the lies. And when we do that, the future of Israel will be stronger because a majority of all Americans will support Israel. We'll make that happen. We have to make it happen. Thank you. BROLIGARCHY. Thank you.
I mean, that's one of those things. Katie Halper does this a lot, like who said it, Trump or Chomsky. And It's just they have different, if an an anti-Semite, said that Jews own everything, they own the media. And by the way, there are lots of people who, for like repulsive, cynical reasons, are using this genocide to just push their horrific anti-Semitism.
But who says the masters of the universe are Jews? Like, you're going to come out and it's amazing. Like, you are
disgusting,
advocating.
Disgusting. But it's the tripartite thing of like, we're the chosen people. No one's ever suffered as much as we have. And in World War II and the Holocaust of Jews is the worst Holocaust that's ever happened. And those three things are like, that is the propaganda that has made Israelis, as as Amazon Pistache had said, like, yeah, I think it's more than 80% of Israelis support this genocide. I think it's more like 96%.
That's why the Christo-fascist, and then you've got other fascists like Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Supports Israel, because then it gives them an excuse to say, well, we can be supremacists just as long as we stay in our own corner of the world. We can have a theocracy. We can, we'll stay over here. You stay over there. We'll have our own. We'll all have our own mini theocracies. The Christian Zionist, not only do they want to bring back the apocalypse and all that other bullshit that we talk about, but they also, you'll hear a lot of them are actually anti-Semitic.
Oh, yeah.
They want to see Jewish people go to Israel, leave the country, and then they want to make the United States a Christo-ethno state, right?
Yeah. They want to solve the JP, the Jewish problem.
Right, and it makes it okay for us to invest in Saudi Arabia because they're not woke pagans.
Yep.
At least they're not like woke pagans. They control their people with fascist ideology, and but they have their beliefs. We don't agree with them, but like, hey, they're not like the commie leftists in America.
Yeah, that's the thing they hate more than anything. The working class. And I mean that, I always have, because by the time I want to say it, I've always had 3 glasses of wine, but that the only people that anti-Semites hate worse than Jews are anti-Zionists. And that's where those two fakakta ideologies come together, because the reason that Zionists who aren't Jewish love Israel is both because of the white supremacy, but also because of the second coming. And they, like, Jews have to die in order for, what's the good thing that happens? Revelation. Yeah, but what happens after the second coming? Isn't that what happens? Easter? I don't know. I'm terrible.
Okay. They do believe that the second coming, that they'll usher in Christ, and the second coming they'll be blessed. And I'm like, you really think Christ is going to bless you after a genocide? Because it's not really how I understand it. I'm pretty sure that's not how I understand it.
Which is why they have to frame it as good versus evil, right? And like the slaughter of the dark and the Amalek, right? Like, all of those framings, those biblical framings, which is why they take these, science fiction novels, and they, it's like an embarrassing reduction of good versus evil. We saw it at the beginning of, the Russian invasion, and people like pushing Zelensky as Superman, and we couldn't ever talk about any of these sort of, other inconvenient realities. But that framing is what allows people to do a genocide and think that they're on the correct side.
Well, Scott Jennings the other day on CNN, he's a raging Zionist, pro-genocide. Scott Jennings was on CNN saying, we have to reconsider that maybe the Sith Lords were the good guys. I think the Empire were the good guys. And he went on to say, they talked about the Death Star blowing up an entire planet. And he's like, well, that was a planet of terrorists. The Jedi were hippie terrorists.
Yeah. The rebels.
I was like, you just argued for blowing up an entire planet. And we, CNN panel kind of laughed at him, and they were laughing about it. And I was like, this is really dark and nefarious. Like, he's trying to rewrite even pop culture in a way to reframe it as the good guys were really the empire. And it's like, who thinks the Sith were the good guys? It's just crazy. It's like, they brought international trade. They brought solidarity. And I was
But
like,
that's it. They're really trying to justify ways to grab power.
yeah.
Is what it is. And it's not that there's going to be a Trump third term, because that's how Democrats are always going to position this.
Right.
That doesn't matter. It's the tech bros are going to have more and more and more power. That's the whole game. Like, justifying that part of it is what they're trying to do. Because I listen to talk radio a lot lately, and they're really like trying to explain how suffering is bad and tariffs are, good in the long term. And, you do your part as a American, because at least we're not communists. We may have the Sith Lords ruling over us, but anyway, my point with that is the right is looking for some way to hang on to the popularity they have, and the public doesn't really support it, but the right-wing media sphere is grabbing onto the things they know still work with their audience, which is racism and xenophobia and stuff, but that's not enough. It's just,
because there's a cognitive dissonance. Like, you cannot
I think,
believing that you're on the correct side when you see what's happening in our country and when you see what our weapons and our money is doing across the world. Like, so at a certain point, you have to lie to yourself. Like, there is no way to see another baby blown to bits, or a father trying to get his family out, going to get a car and coming back, and 7 members of his family, his children, his wife, are beneath rubble. Like, Israel is killing people on a scale that I don't think any of us has seen like this for this amount of time, on our phones, on our computers, where we have now Microsoft has cut off the email and the bank accounts of one of the ICC prosecutors.
Yeah.
Because Trump was like, we're putting tariffs on this guy or sanctions on this guy. We're not going to arrest Netanyahu or Yoav Gallant or Ben Gvir. They are free to come. We're going to shut down, the people who are protesting the genocide. And they're like, the cognitive dissonance, knowing that the people who you have voted for and who you pretend are supporting you, who won't give you health care, but say it's peaceful to live in abject poverty while criminalizing the homelessness they caused. Like, there has to be a story that people are coming up with to justify this, because it's horrific.
And that reminds me, and I'll go ahead and play the second clip from Abby before we talk about how it relates to Doge and Doge being Nazis. So we'll take a look at that really quick.
Do it.
There's no incremental measurement of how we can get people out of the jobs that AI is going to take over and put them into other jobs. There's no government jobs programs. There's nothing. It's going to be a rug pull over the next several years, where you have Trump and all of his speeches that no one's really reporting on, Zainab, about how he's saying he's going to double the electricity grid in the US just to pay for AI. Just to pay for AI. And when you mention the imperial boomerang and these policies coming home to roost, absolutely. You see Palantir hand in glove working with the Trump administration. They just got a $30 million contract to work with ICE. They are the bedrock and the grid of all of the ICE draconian surveillance technology at the border and beyond. So all of the people that they're rounding up and deporting, Palantir is providing the data. I mean, this is the new world that we're in. I mean, when you hear Alex Karp being disrupted by a Palestinian saying your tech is killing my people, his reaction was surreal. Zainab, I mean, his reaction is surreal. These people are maniacal. They're genocidal maniacs, and they are pure sociopaths. I mean, Peter Thiel almost seems more human than this new guy. He's basically
Karp is scary.
I mean, he's nuts. He's saying heads need to roll. People need to die as long as you're not on the good side and not the evil side. It's just, I mean, it is cartoonishly maniacally insane. Like, this guy is just a nightmare. But I mean, look, it's all coming home to roost, and it's all integrated. And Gaza's been a testing ground for a long time, Zainab. And you have these weapons tech defense contractors using Gaza as the example, where they go around and parade around their technology around the world and say, look how well it works.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just blown such a hole in any remaining possible fantasy that we have a rules-based order. It's just, yeah. I mean, I think, unfortunately, you know, and this is what our leaders, they understand this, like they've gone too far, because you can't vote this out. And that is what FDR actually understood as a good capitalist, was that, like, we got to give the people something or they're going to come after us with pitchforks or guillotines, right? And nobody in power, not Obama, not Bush, not Trump, not Biden, like none of them cares a bit about, like, their, you know, it's like the thing of, like, what kind of peace is it if there's no justice? So when Karp talks about peace, he's just like, shut the fuck up and we'll kill as many people as we want. But it's not, there's no justice in any of these people's view of the world.
It's control. And that's why they are infiltrating every part of our government through Doge.
Yeah.
It's about controlling every system, because our overarching theme, and one of the reasons we wanted to bring this to you, and the reason we had to break it apart in such a long series, is that their overall goal of these people like these people like Karp and Peter Thiel, and we talked about in a couple other episodes, or the last episode, Curtis Yarvin, and we'll get more into that in future episodes. And they want to build a techno monarchy. They want to build praxis. They want to have these communities. I saw on Palmer Lucky's interview the other day, he was talking about how, you know, it's his dream to die on one of the moons of Jupiter. But he knows that's going to cost a lot of money.
Let's do it. Let's fund that. I will fund that.
Yeah, exactly. Go there.
The door where the good Lord split you. Get the fuck out. Like,
yeah,
go.
Have you thought about submarining?
Yeah. They want to use AI and ravage our ecosystem and our land and our jobs and everything else, and mine AI and do all of this so that they can create themselves paradises, pockets in the world when the world goes to shit and catches fire. And then they can also, they're so out of touch with reality that they think they're going to live on, you know, they're going to be living in in
the ocean or on Mars.
In an ocean or on Mars or in some, you know, space station that's rotating the planet, you know, between, you know, in the Milky Way somewhere. This is what they believe. They believe this to their core, but they also understand that that we could fight back, because there's 365 million of us in the United States alone, and globally we're a force of 4.6 billion now. So we could fight them. But all that they're doing is they're laying a foundation of control, because they know it's hitting the fan. 60% of people are in poverty in the United States. When 60%. You adjust inflation, 60% are in poverty levels, and globally it's worse in some places. So, you know, and
this is wild thing. The wild thing is that crime is actually down, as they are justifying the increase in all these police budgets and super surveillance. But it's just because they fucking know what is coming, because they know how evil all these policies are, and they have placated the public for as long as they could. But I think where it falls apart, where it fell apart in the last 10 years, is people are seeing that there is no good guy. We don't have the Democratic good guy anymore. And they can't rebuild that image, because you can't be a Democrat and be a good guy anymore. The party won't allow it. So, like, now they're like, well, fuck, what do we do? Cops, surveillance, you know, town cities, you know, corporate towns. Like, you know, your credit score is going to go down.
Yeah. So, okay. So that is bringing us to what they said is going to solve the problem, which is DOGE, which is the Department of Government Efficiency, who, shocking, has partnered with Palantir. Zainab, do you want to, or I mean, I'll do it. I feel like I just never stop talking.
I can't read that from here. I'm too old for this shit.
Let's see. This is from Wired Magazine. A young entrepreneur was among the earliest known recruits for Elon Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency. DOGE has a new related gig, and he's hiring Anthony Janisco, co-founder of Accelerate X, a government tech startup, is looking for technology to work on a project that aims to have artificial intelligence that performs tasks that are currently the responsibility of tens of thousands of federal workers. Janisco is a former Palantir employee who wrote in Slack about 2000 Palantir. It was a 2000 Palantir alumni in it that he's hiring for a DOGE orthogonal project to design benchmarks and deploy AI agents across live workflows in federal agencies, according to an April 21 post by Wired. Let's see. Also, they're saying that they've identified 300 roles for full process standardization. They've also said that they're going to...
That means they're firing 300 people at least. Like that, like
right out of the
gate. Saying. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they're going to automate those systems. And we know how automation sucks, right?
Right.
And he wrote that it would be based out of DNC, but Palantir did not respond to requests for comment, even though they're partnered on this project. According to sources with direct knowledge, Janisco did disclose that Accelerate X had signed a partnership agreement with Palantir in 2024. Accelerate San Francisco's co-founders Kay Soren now works for OpenAI and has joined the company several months after a hackathon. So they all got together, they had a hackathon, and then pulled from that hackathon are a bunch of these Doge minions that Elon Musk has hired to do this, working for, let's see, Consumer Financial Protections Bureau, National Labor Relations Board, the Department of Labor, the Department of Education.
Yeah, it's truly like these hackathons. I've known people who've gone to these, right? I've known, I knew someone whose whole job was tech hacker. So companies would hire him to go in, investigate, see what you can find. But that guy was also coked out playing pool with me in the pool hall all the time. So that's who these guys are. I'm not saying they're all coked out like that, but these people do not have any vetting to be in these positions of authority or power within our government at all. Yep. Like they do not belong there. There's no check on them other than the Supreme Court ultimately.
Great.
The best we got.
Corporatists. Yeah. And sorry, I'm seeing, because I said 300 jobs, it's 300 like office or like not departments, but like subsidiaries. But yes, that translates to tens of thousands of jobs.
Yeah, they're talking about cutting, and there's one part of the article that says the aim is to cut 70,000 workers and automate those workers.
Yeah,
they're also
sorry, that isn't that. Yeah.
Exactly. They've also infiltrated the GSA, and the GSA handles all government contracts. And I did a whole hour-and-a-half piece on this to do with Doge, and the GSA handles all government contracts. So they have people who work for Palantir now working on a process that is AI informed to determine who gets a government contract and who doesn't. So they're literally hedging their bet.
Right.
We thought Raytheon and all these companies were bad, and they were, but at least there was some competition of contracts among them to a certain extent. Still horrible, still evil bastards.
They told us that was their goal, was to be post-election, post democracy proof, whatever. And now here we are. They don't care which party wins. They have the contract that's going to pass.
Yep.
Between all these terms, they're still going to have it, and they're going to be deciding who gets contracts. And we have literally Elon Musk out there in front of people on TV firing businesses that he's going to profit from. Like, and
Yeah.
shutting down the oversight of his own businesses.
It was to the point where OpenAI is now basically their rift has ended between them and Palantir, you know, and then there was a rift between the Oculus guy, Palmer Luckey, but now he's partnered with Palantir. All of these assholes are starting to partner together. We'll talk about it later, but Microsoft also is partnering with these guys, and so they're all consolidating. And they're like, okay, we all want a slice of the pie. So since you're going to be in there and you're going to have control of the GSA, and think about it, they're cutting our Medicaid, they're cutting our Medicare, they're cutting SNAP benefits, they're gutting our funding for our schools. They gutted the Department of Education. They're expecting people to pay back their student loans, you know, like they're
and they'll siphon your wages.
Yeah.
Your wages. Yeah.
But these billionaires are now getting all of this federal funding. Like what we pay out, the 30% or whatever of our checks are going to these assholes.
Yeah. This is just recently was shown federal contracts awarded to different companies. So it used to be SpaceX. I mean, I'm kind of shocked that Musk is sharing in the pie. And now, as you know, all of those blue bars were SpaceX and Elon Musk, and now Palantir and Andrew, what's his first name? Lucky, somebody Lucky,
Palmer Luckey.
Palmer, yeah. And then it shows like the breakdown of it. So here's Musk, and he, of course, has his hand in every single department of the federal government, right? From the executive office all the way down to the weather service. That's what he's doing with his Doge. But then they show, and like Palmer Luckey is a new person on my radar. I didn't know about him until like 2 weeks ago. And Mark Andreessen, of course. But all of these tech guys, Thiel, have their fingers in every single part of the government. And part of the way that works is, of course, we've had people all along for the last 2.5 decades giving them contracts. But Doge is like turbocharging all of that, so much so that, you know, the thing that I got banned from Twitter for saying about the French Revolution, Alex Karp is saying Doge is a revolution and some people are going to get their heads cut off. So I just wanted to do a really quick bring it all together for a moment with these techno Zionists who love Doge. Doge, as Jim Stewartson, who, you know, he can err a little bit on the lib side, but he's doing a good takedown, I think, of these tech bros. In 1941, Hitler had documents transferred to Argentina to consolidate his ideology. On the cover was the 14-spoked gear logo of the German Labor Front, the SA, which replaced unions when the leaders were sent to concentration camps. They really hate working class people. They hate labor. This is interesting. That 14-spoked gear logo is also the logo for Doge.
Yeah, 1488. Of course, we're going to get there, right?
I mean, and this is who super Zionist Alex Karp is aligning himself with, right? Which, like, I mean, sometimes it's like, it feels overwhelming because everything is, you know,
I'm sorry, I'm getting accosted.
Oh, cute. But it's all interconnected. It all intersects. And the fact that they proudly, like Elon Musk proudly Heils Hitler, then he has a slight reprimand from the ADL, but then they're like, well, it's just an awkward time. They reprimanded the ADL and Jonathan Greenblatt, like disgusting right-wing horror show of a man. But when Trump in his first regime talked about how great Henry Ford was, did some really good things, that was a dog whistle to white supremacists who knew that Henry Ford was a Nazi sympathizer or a Nazi sympathizer, Nazi. ADL called him out then. Now ADL is saying in a positive way that Elon Musk is offering a lot to humanity and he's like the Henry Ford of our generation. And this is how these bankrupt, evil ideologies into
Well, in that way, he is the Henry Ford of our generation.
Yeah. Like for the
I
ADL
think
to go from
Well,
Yeah,
to
I
me,
know.
all that is because they know how unpopular all this stuff is. So like they're gonna lean on fear, and fear is dependent on their right wing whack job racist people being the most fearful they can be. So like, hey, we're with you, gear on the Doge logo, 1888 or 1488 here and there, dog whistles galore. Because they're not going to win elections on the Republican side, but what for the next 4 years they can put fear in people, which can help all these tech bros gain even more power, because it doesn't matter, because they're going to survive the Republicans losing in 3 years. Like they're post all this. So the tech bros love all the Nazi shit because they're not really in it exactly, but they're benefiting from it because it's all they have to give Trump power now.
Yeah, and they're also anti-education. I stumbled upon this weird recruitment stuff that Palantir is doing to get like interns in and like fascists to sign up for their company. They're being very weird about it. They're like, if you're not loyal to the values and ideas of our company, we're not going to hire you. So much for merit based. They don't give a shit about that. They're not looking for merit. But here's what he said about here's what Karp said about protest on campus. We think these things that are happening across college campuses are a sideshow, but no, they are the show. If we lose the intellectual debate, you will not be able to deploy any army in the West ever. So he's basically saying, you know, we need to close down our colleges, basically. And then he goes on here, college is broken. Palantir is launching a merit-based, fellowship for high school graduate that skips the indoctrination. College is broken. Admissions are based on flawed criteria. Meritocracy and excellence are no longer the pursuits of educational institutions. And chaos has ensued on university campuses. Starting today, Palantir is launching a fall fellowship for the best and brightest graduating high school students based solely on merit and academic excellence. Students will be invited for interviews. Select applicants will receive an internship offer at Palantir. Upon completion, successful interns will be offered full-time role. And he's got a moment of reckoning has arrived for the West. Our culture has fallen into the shallow consumerism while adorning rational purposes. Too few Silicon Valley have asked what ought to be built and why. We did. We built Palantir to ensure Americans' future, not something at the margins. Sorry, I think he says tinker at the margins. On the factory floor, in the operating room, across the battlefield, we build to domination.
I mean, they're just projecting it out there. They really don't care. They're really fine with all of it. And this goes back to Nixon, right? Like, this is part of the reason that college got so expensive. Make it less affordable. We don't need people who are educated. And we also need people who are more desperate. And that way we can indoctrinate them and they'll join the army. I mean, like...
Yeah, they're basically saying join the army through Palantir because Palantir is turning into the army, right?
Yeah.
Israel.
Oh, go ahead, Pat.
Well, I was just say Israel is now using the reserves for the next phase of their genocide, and nobody's even talking about phase 3 of genociding in Israel. And it's because of this. This country is so fucked that we're just like the learned helplessness because we have no power, no vote, no voice. I think is really overwhelming a lot of people in the US right now.
Well, and it is interesting, even though most Israelis have been so propagandized to believe that all Palestinians are terrorists and evil, there is still a toll that's taken from whatever kind of fighting you're doing, even though it's completely disproportionate and they have, you know, the world's greatest superpower at their back and all of the weapons and all that, it is still harming them mentally. Like, genocide is a way of dying by suicide. They are killing themselves. They are destroying their country. They're destroying any reputation of democracy that this country had. And many IDF soldiers are dying by suicide now. People do not want to join this army. They are doing things that make them monsters. And that takes a toll.
But this is why these tech bros are so bad on one level, because none of that could happen. Like, the tech bros whole profit model is based on, you know, I mean, at least Palantir
removing the human. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to you have to make this war and this genocide okay, because they get all this money. And so, like, but that's what's happening in all of our government at the top level. The people profiting from it have to pretend and sell some story, a narrative to the public, or their profiteering doesn't continue.
Yeah. But again, you know, that's like, and I know we're kind of winding down, it's been 2 hours, but that is the inherent contradiction in capitalism. Like, it's a cancer. It is impossible to have infinite growth. It's just impossible. So at a certain point, you can only extricate, you can only steal the resources that exist. You can only steal the labor that exists. You're killing it by either genocide or climate or COVID or whatever you're doing. Like, at a certain point, it's going to run out, and they know that. So they are just trying to fucking grab everything on their way out.
Yeah, and they know, look, at some point, AI can replace a lot of jobs. Robotics can replace a lot of jobs. You know, these are ultimately could be good for society, but they're not going to be because of the system we have with capitalism.
Yeah.
But
exactly,
but there's
not going to be a minimum basic income or a housing guarantee or
and that's the point, is they're building the cop city because they know they don't want to give us any of that shit, because then it would equalize some of the, you know, social stuff around the world. Like, we would have housing or something and they would have $10 less, you know,
I mean,
do you want to show the Thiel versus democracy article? Because I think that rounds out where they stand on this.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they know that he knows that this was the clip that was very low, but basically this was a piece that he wrote for the Cato Institute in 2010, I think. But knowing that I no longer believe that freedom and democracy are compatible. And clearly he is only speaking about himself or rich people, right? I remain committed to the faith of my teenage years, to authentic human freedom as a precondition for the highest good. I stand against confiscatory taxes, totalitarian collectives, and the ideology of the inevitability of the death of every individual. For all these reasons, I still call myself libertarian. Doesn't he inject like child blood into himself? Whatever. Anyway, but I must confess that over the last 2 decades, I have changed radically on the question of how to achieve these goals. Most importantly, I no longer believe that freedom and democracy are compatible. By tracing out the development of my thinking, I hope to frame some of the challenges faced by all classical liberals today. And then he goes on to say, since 1920, the vast increase in welfare beneficiaries and the extension of the franchise to women, 2 constituencies that are notoriously tough for libertarians, have rendered the notion of capitalist democracy into an oxymoron. Well, I agree with him there. The great task for libertarians is to find an escape from politics in all its forms, from the totalitarian and fundamentalist catastrophes to the unthinking demos that guide so-called social democracy. And here, always, the higher IQ, sorry, Pat, the higher one's IQ, the more pessimistic one became about free market politics. Capitalism simply is not that popular with the crowd. And time and again, you know, we talk about this all the time. Whatever we all think about Bernie right now, or for the last however many years, 6 years, 5 years, His economic agenda is widely popular across the whole country. He is the center. That's the center. When 70% of the country believes in Medicare for all and a living wage and free public college and affordable housing, and like that's Democrats, Republicans, independents. That's the center. That's not radical left. And it's, it's not even, it's barely left. But that is not capitalism at work. That is socialism. We all deserve to own our labor. And that is popular. And that's why they shut it down. And so they don't believe in democracy.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like, look, if you're a capitalist and you were forever, fine. You can justify it worked for a while, right? For you and your family and a lot of people. But we're so at the end stage of it to where the power, people have lost the power. The people telling you a democracy won't work are the ones in power. Like the people saying voting doesn't work anymore are the ones in power.
Yeah.
People saying like, you guys can't think for yourself and we need surveillance to think, and we need an AI system to think about what you might think in the future and target that. They're in power and they're not giving that up. And we have no means of power to take that back other than fighting corporations, protesting, disrupting. But you're not voting a guy in who's going to fix this ever again, even fucking Bernie. Like that ship sailed.
Yeah. Even if, somebody like him got into power, we don't change this from the inside.
He will never, he can't. You can't.
Yeah.
They won't let it
It's
happen.
like it would change definitionally. It's like what is it? An immovable object meets an unstoppable force. What happens? One of those two entities changes definition, right? So you cannot be voted in if you believe those things and are actually going to fight to implement them. You're just not going to get there.
It's going to come down to community organizing and also in part battening our hatches. I'm not saying to give up the fight at all, but I am saying in the interim, we're going to have to batten our hatches. We're going to have to plant food. We're going to have to lean in. We're going to have to support our neighbors. We're going to have to protect each other in any way we can. I don't mean to fearmonger, but that's what it's coming down to, because before we can rise up as we will, there's going to be a lot of hurt coming our way, and people need to be aware of that, because I feel like on social media and things like that, we get so like blindsided by the policies and everything else that's happening. And we have to stay informed on those, that we forget to turn inward to, we have to do the individualistic thing as well as the community thing, because we have to be able to protect our families, protect our community, keep ourselves alive, just like they did, in the coal towns in Appalachia. That's what's coming again. We are talking about script towns. We are talking about pre-industrial revolution.
And there's going to have to be a kind of underground railroad also, I think, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
Like I do think that that's all part of it. The only thing that I hope we can, because it's been on the internet, people have seen it, and I do think like any moment where we see people who are resisting the pressure to hate the other is so beautiful and powerful. So, there is this like horrific continued battle going on between India and Pakistan, and this young Indian boy is being interviewed, and he refuses to go down the path that the bigoted interviewer wants him to. So it's translated, and you're going to have to read for a second, but it brings me a lot of hope from across the world.
पाकिस्तान जिंदाबाद जिंदाबाद शर्म नहीं आ रही क्यों शर्म आएगी पाकिस्तान को खत्म नहीं करना चाहिए हैं नहीं करना चाहिए भारत देश जिंदाबाद है नहीं है और पाकिस्तान जिंदाबाद है नहीं है आपका नाम अपनी जगह पे सब जिंदाबाद आपका नाम क्या होगा तुम भी अपनी जगह पे जिंदाबाद आपका नाम क्या होगा कैफ कैफ, पूरा नाम?
कैफ, मोहम्मद कैफ।
कहाँ से हैं आप?
मैं बिहार से हूँ।
बिहार से। आपको थोड़ी सी भी शर्म नहीं आ रही कि भारत देश में रहने के बावजूद आप पाकिस्तान का समर्थन कर रहे हो कि कैसे खत्म होगा पाकिस्तान?
अच्छा, आप ही न्यूज बना रहे तो आपको शर्म नहीं आ रही कि क्या न्यूज बना रहे हो? आपको शर्म नहीं आ रही है कि न्यूज बना के सबको फैला रहे हो हिंदू मुस्लिम के बारे में? हिंदुस्तान का समर्थन क्यों करना? आप पहले हमें जवाब दीजिए, उसके बाद हम कुछ बोलेंगे। तुम जो बोल रहे हो, वहाँ भी आदमी है, यहाँ भी आदमी है, वहाँ भी मुस्लिम है, वहाँ भी हिंदू है, यहाँ भी हिंदू है, सब तो है इंसान। तो क्यों सबको खत्म करना? पहले ये बताओ, क्यों करना? सबको जिंदगी जीने का हक है, सबको हक है, तो क्यों खत्म करना?
आप पाकिस्तान का समर्थन करते हैं?
कहीं आप जाओगे वहाँ, कहीं आपको खत्म कर दिया तो हो गया काम?
आप पाकिस्तान का समर्थन करते हैं?
हाँ, करते हैं।
तुम भारतीय नहीं हो, तुम भारतीय नहीं हो।
भारतीय है। आप जो बोल रहे इस देश को खत्म करो, उस देश को खत्म करो, तो सब में तो इंसान ही रहते हैं।
मेरे को छोटी सी चीज जाननी थी, ये आपको सिखाया किसने?
दूर यार, सिखाया किसी जगह जाती मान है यार।
It makes like to have that kind of, wherewithal and integrity to speak up to an adult and not to hate people just because you've been taught that. Like, it's not fair to put this on the younger generation, but they give me hope.
I loved his fire. He was awesome.
Yeah.
He was awesome. And I loved how he called out the media. He was like, what are you doing?
You should be ashamed.
The journalist should be ashamed, or whatever it is, should be ashamed for badgering that kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we see the same thing though in the US with the way that the media treats anyone who's against genocide.
Yep.
We see this exact same thing. Well, who are you for? Like, how can you argue, why aren't you mentioning October 7th every time you talk about
you condemn Hamas?
Starving to death.
Nope. Yeah. Not condemning them. Do you condemn Israel every day for 76 years? Do you? Yeah. I mean, and whatever. It's like the least of the tragedies, or not even tragedy, but like, people telling me I'm not a real Jew and you're, they are going to put you in the ovens, they're going to rape you. And like, they're doing the same thing to this young boy, trying to turn his heart into hate. What a project. Like, it's just disgusting.
And that's what these tech companies want to do with their AI bots and with social media and with stocking companies like X being taken over by and Zuckerberg controlling algorithms and Google and Palantir is going to have their hand in all of it. And every single government agency, as we had mentioned before, there is a mass effort to propagandize. And I think that one of our fights is going to be, even if we end up getting pushed underground, then we got to do flyers. We got to go back to the Gutenberg, man.
Yeah.
And start,
outreach. And it's so important because they own everything, but they don't own our hearts and minds. And that's the thing. And so on that note, I'm realizing we're over 2 hours. Is there anything you guys want to say before we sign off? I know we didn't get to everything, but I feel like
this show could go on for 48 hours easily.
Yeah.
Just with the graphics we have.
It's like a race.
They pull so many graphics and they're amazing.
It's a race to see who gets to the studio first and who gets to upload, the hundreds of graphics.
We have like 4 hours of video we can play right here.
But it's dangerous and it's pervasive. So go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I just want to say that we can't. They have the power. They grabbed it. We're not voting it out. They achieved that first goal of being post-partisan. Post-democracy. They're there now. So now what do we do is the question. I don't have the answer exactly, but what do we do when voting doesn't matter? That's where we're at now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying no vote, but I'm just saying we can't solve it through it. We know that now. So that's where we are. That's reality. Accept it. Even if you disagree with everything I say, that's the reality.
It's the reality, and the power we have is what Bill Hayward said. You put your, we're all workers. You put your hands in your pocket, you shut it down, because it's a general strike. The next step is Luigi. Like that. Those are the options for the people in power. So that's where we are. Hands in your pockets. And yeah. And I love this community too. I desperately need it. Thank you all for joining in with us. Really thrilled that we get to do this series with Zainab, and thank you for bringing that interview that you did with Abby Martin, because she's so brilliant, you're so brilliant, and really appreciate that you share those clips with us also. So thank you.
Thank you guys.
All right. So it always feels a little, it's just the three of us wearing all the hats, and we don't have like the different outros and intros to like totally brand that this is a production that we are doing with Zainab. And as we go out on a good thing, we just want to thank all of you guys for being here with all of us.
And we will have another show, which we need to narrow down exactly which of our like 10 topics we've got that will be for the next show. But we will be digging into, and we'll be digging a little bit more into some of these people. I know that Lila introduced me to Palmer Luckey, and I was like, oh, he's the Oculus guy. So that's a whole can of worms. And then we're definitely going to have one on we're going to have one on what's happening to the labor force, and AI replacing labor is one of ours.
And these company towns, and also the left version of all of this, which is the abundance movement, which is equally repulsive. And we will get into all of that also.
And how we have another one on how it ties to white nationalism specifically. So that segment that we had here, we're going to expand on how they're working in tandem. So
can we have a whole show where we just show videos making fun of all these billionaire bastards?
Yes. And
that would be great.
Can we have a fun one? Entirely fun.
My whole bottle.
Damn it. All right.
So I hope everybody was keeping up. All right. There was an enormous protest at The Hague, which is, blessings to the people who keep showing up. I think over 10,000 people showed up today to protest the pathetic non-rules-based order that we are all witnessing. So cheers, everybody. Pat and I will be back on Wednesday for Punch Up Pod. We will be back next Sunday for our BROLIGARCHY show with Zainab, and we love all of you guys. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, Anna, Lila, everybody.
Bye, guys. Innocent people and continue with their plan of genocide.
Hello, everyone. Do you see the suffering of children? They should be dancing in the strawberries that should be free to reach up for the guessing sun. I've got the answer.